Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well on this day. Oh my gosh, I just realized my undershirt is green. Oh man, you can see my neck. You can see through my neck with the green screen. For those of you not watching live, you don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can fix it there. I might just have a space-adelic neck today. Maybe that'll be good. It'll be something to distract you from the idiocy of my speaking. Ha-ha! Welcome to FantasyGuru.com. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. Got the tech issue here. Let's see if we can get this going. There we go. All right. So multiple things going on. That's going to bother me. It's going to bother you. Let's see if we can hide that a little bit. There, maybe. I don't know. If my neck looks like it's falling off, folks, that's why. Don't worry about it. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. We got a lot of things going on here to talk about. Let's just pop it up on the screen real quickly here. We're going to discuss Monday Night Football between the Lions and the Niners. Did the Lions rest players? This was one of the I'll save it for a second. We'll talk about it in a brief moment here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. Follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places at the Ray Flowers. Follow this show Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And you can follow us in a lot of spaces. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily, your podcast network. You can watch us here live on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can watch us live on Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Both Facebook and YouTube, if you watch live, you can leave comments and questions that we address throughout the show. You can also watch us live on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site. And you can obviously go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, and find the show catalog there. So many ways to watch the show, listen to the show, consume the show. Just because the football season for the majority of people is over doesn't mean we're going to stop covering football here on the show, as you can see on the screen today. We're going to review Monday Night Football. We're going to talk about Week 18, some player news. We'll talk to Armando Marsal in about 25 minutes, talk some waiver wires with him. How should people be playing in fantasy football for Week 18? You're not giving up, are you? How things should be going when it comes to the playoffs. How should you handle that? We'll talk to Armando about that moving forward. So we'll continue to cover the fantasy game here. And as we start to move into the month of January, as we announced yesterday, the big announcement yesterday, if you missed that, the baseball product is now live at FantasyGuru.com. Well, it's live to purchase. It's not actually going live for 6 days. January 6th will be the debut of the 2025 Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide. Just click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page there, or you can follow the actual link on the screen as well. The baseball product is a full season product. It includes articles. It includes Discord access, any podcasts that we do, rankings every month, all these kind of things, dynasty leagues, keeper leagues, seasonal leagues, roto leagues, points leagues, rookie reviews. We'll have all of that in the product over at FantasyGuru.com for baseball. Remember, that goes live on January 6th, less than a week away. Pretty exciting, folks. You can also go to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, and get all the football coverage the rest of the season. We're still offering that. You can send a note to support@FantasyGuru.com. Support@FantasyGuru.com. Ted will help you out. You say, hey, look, I'd love to get DFS seasonal and wagering the rest of the way football. What can you do for me? Support@FantasyGuru.com. And then basically for every sport that's not baseball or football, we have the MVP plan. So the MVP plan includes soccer, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, basketball, ice hockey, all those things. The MVP plan. Click that subscribe tab as the bottom line over at FG. We'll be able to help you out. And then finally, before we dive into the action, as we keep talking about here on the show, we still do have the ability to sell you some gift certificates. And remember, you can buy the gift certificate for yourself. You can give it away to a friend, a family member, a happy holiday that you haven't seen them yet. You can give it to your coworker. You can buy it for yourself and get a little bit of discount on any of the products. Put $50 in there, we give you $65. Put $100 in, we give you $125. Put $200 in, we give you $250. So whatever you buy, hell, if you buy a $25 gift card, we give you 10 free bucks. So buy that $50 gift card. It'll cover the baseball package all season long. We'll give you $65, so you have some extra there to spend as well. Head over to FantasyGuru.com and click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Okay, let's get after it here on episode 304. Man, we're episode 304. We're rocking and rolling, aren't we? Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Again, tell a friend. It's a free show, and I know that I hope at least that it's enjoyable, that it's interesting, that you are able to take something away from the discussions we have, whether they're fun or informative, whatever it might be. And we try to also help you, like I said here at the start, and like you're all aware if you've been with us, we answer questions throughout the show, mostly at the end, but sometimes through the middle of the show. So tell a friend; it would help us out. Again, the game last night, the Lions defeated the Niners. They moved to 14-2, put themselves in position to win the NFC, to win their division. They have that huge game on Sunday night at 8:20. No games this week on Monday. There's a couple games on Saturday. The rest are on Sunday. So we're going to have a lot of action here on Sunday, including that final game between the Vikings and the Lions. Lions moved to 14-2 with that 40-34 victory over San Francisco. Lions rest anybody yesterday? And, I think this is, we talked about this here on the show. And interestingly enough, Jeff Mann's on the Elite Sports Show, 3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday. He talked about the Lions game, and he said the exact same thing I did. He actually said it on his coffee video too. By the way, I'm actually on every week on Wednesdays with Jeff on the Elite Sports Show. This week I'll be on with him today. So you get a double dose of Ray if you care. We'll do an hour here. Then I'll have 3 hours with Jeff, 3 to 6 Eastern. Series decided to go dark tomorrow, on holiday, New Year's Day. So no show for no live show tomorrow for Elite Sports. No Ray tomorrow, but Ray will be on there today from 3 to 6. That's me, by the way, talking about myself in third person. I was stunned by the amount of questions I saw on social media, by some of the comments we got in the Discord room, the fact that we all had to address this, the fact that there were other people in the fantasy space saying worry about the Lions. There were people on the broadcast last night saying we don't know if the Lions are going to play these guys. Like these people, any of them watch the Lions this year? Their head coach, as I said, he goes for it on 4th down when they're ahead by 18 points. You think that guy's not going to go full pedal to the metal? You think the Lions wanted to lose a game to a Niners squad that is spiraling out into the toilet? They wanted to lose a game against them going into Minnesota because theoretically the game didn't mean anything? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. So what did the Lions do last night? They won the football game. They scored 40 points, and they played their guys the whole game like they always were going to. So again, we don't always make the right call on a player-by-player basis at fantasyguru.com. I don't always make the right decision when I say, hey, start Goff or Purdy, those kind of things. I don't always make that right decision. In fact, I said Goff over Purdy last night, and we'll talk about it in a second. Wasn't the right call. You were fine if you played Goff. Wasn't the right call. But there are a lot of sources out there. Be careful who you trust. There's a lot of sources out there that people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. So be careful who you're spending your money with. Starting on the Lions side of things, let's start with Goff. 303 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was at like 7 of 8 games with at least 2 touchdown passes, at least. They got a home game against Minnesota this week where he plays a little bit better. I want to say he's at around like 290 and 2.5 touchdowns a game at home, something like that. It'll be in my matchup piece that comes out this week. But Jared Goff went out and lit up the Niners as he's done the majority of the season and continues to really do impressively in the second half. Since that 5-interception game where things just went haywire for a week for him and the Lions, he's thrown 1 pick in like 6 or 7 games. He's been on the case, and he was on it yet again last night, 303. Jahmyr Gibbs, with the loss of David Montgomery, they still hope the Lions do that Montgomery will be able to return in the playoffs. We'll see if that's a realistic expectation or not coming back from that knee injury, but that's the expectation that he's going to try at least. We've seen Gibbs in 2 games without excuse me. Oh, as I kill myself here, let me take a sip of water. Sorry. Apologize for that. We've seen Gibbs go for 100 yards and a touchdown, I think, on the ground both games. We have seen Gibbs catch 4 passes in like 4 straight games. He 20-plus touches last night. He had over 150 scrimmage yards. He scored a touchdown. As expected, he has continued to be the motor that helps run this offense for the Lions. And he gave another great effort last night for the club and for fantasy folks. Amon St. Brown didn't have a huge game. He only had 60 yards, but he caught 8 passes and he scored a touchdown. Boom goes that dynamite. We had a couple of questions. I had a couple of questions yesterday. People nervous about Amon St. Brown. Come on. He's top 5 wide receiver. Come on. Last night, if you played him, you got your 20 PPR points. And if you didn't, you got your 12 PPR points, and that's still a win. Or non-PPR points, that's still a win. So Amon St. Brown did his thing. Jameson Williams, 5 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. Jameson Williams never catches more than 5 passes, but he basically catches 5 passes every week. He's become much more consistent in the second half of the season. He got in the end zone as a pass catcher, also got into the end zone as a runner. He had a 3-yard touchdown run. Then he had a 5-yard carry for -5 yards. So he actually had 2 carries for -2 yards. But he got in the end zone as a ball carrier, got in the end zone as a pass catcher. Another strong effort for Jameson Williams. Sam LaPorta, he also got in the end zone. 6 catches, 64 yards, and a touchdown. He's basically, I think, for the last 3 games, had 4 catches for 40 yards, which, okay. It's the first time he's done that 4 straight games all year. Tim Patrick played a lot last night, didn't see a target. Tim Patrick has seen 1 target in 2 games. After scoring 3 touchdowns in 2 games, he has 1 target in 2 games, says Tim Patrick. And the reason being that Sam LaPorta is back to being that third piece of the offense. And it's a really good sign for him after a really poor first half of the season. Still way missed the expectations because he was drafted, for those that forget, inside the top 30 overall, according to ADP. LaPorta's a big miss this season. We were right about him at fantasyguru.com, but the industry as a whole was over their skis with LaPorta, but he's been solid down the stretch. And he got in the end zone yet again, 6 for 64 and a touchdown. Another strong effort last night for Sam LaPorta. On the other side of things, the big storyline for the Niners is Brock Purdy, 377 and 3. He also had a rushing touchdown. Now, he hurt his elbow late. Everyone got nervous about his UCL. All reports suggest that the UCL injury that he suffered and previously had fixed was not an issue last night. When he got tackled, the defender came down on top of him. Face mask went right into his elbow. Dr. David Chow, who was an NFL doctor for about 2 decades, who I used to talk to with Kyle Elfrink on the Fantasy Drive every Sunday night on SiriusXM. He said, based on his video review, there should be no issue with the UCL, which is what we're hearing. There's an ulnar nerve issue, likely unrelated to the elbow surgery, which we're hearing. There's some numbness and tingling that's likely what he's dealing with, making it hard to grip the football. They'll run an MRI, and Dr. Chow says, based upon what he's seeing, no long-term effects, should be fine, and there's a chance he plays in Week 18. So that's echoing what Matt Barrows of the CSN Bay Area, whatever the hell he is now, that one of the Niners' lead beat writers basically said. So seems like at this point in time that Purdy's got a legitimate chance to play in Week 18. We'll obviously follow that storyline. In the backfield, Isaac Guerendo didn't do anything on the ground, 34 rushing yards, did lead the team. And he was the only halfback to have a carry. It's only halfback to have a touch last night. I know Kyle Juszczyk got in the end zone on a catch, but he's a fullback. It was all Guerendo all the time, as it's been for the majority of the season. The Niners have had one guy that just has taken over the backfield. Guerendo did again last night. Didn't do anything on the ground with 34 rushing yards, but he had 4 catches for 65 yards. So he still gave you 14 PPR points. So he was still fine. It was still a hit. It wasn't a huge hit. It wasn't a win. It's a little bit better. It was kind of a B+ effort for Guerendo, right? It was fine. If you started him, you were fine. Wasn't great, but you were fine. The Deebo Samuel thing, 3 carries for 16 yards. That's cool. Him involved as a runner. We've grown accustomed to 2 or 3 carries a week. That makes sense. 1 catch for 5 yards and a touchdown. Ugh. I mean, he had 1 target. I don't know what's going on with Deebo Samuel. I don't know what's going on with the Niners. If you look at the snap counts here, Deebo played 49 snaps. Ricky Pearsall played 44 snaps. Jennings played 56. Deebo was on the field the whole time. They threw the ball 40 times in the game, and they threw 1 ball to Deebo Samuel. So at least he got in the end zone. I don't know. Ricky Pearsall, we'll get to him in a second. I left him off the list. How did I leave him off the list? Ricky Pearsall had 8 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown. That's 2 straight games for Pearsall with 4 catches. But I think like the previous 5-6 games, he had like 6 catches. He just wasn't part of the offense. There is some concern, as we're discussing, with Purdy and what he's going to be able to do in Week 18. If it's Dobbs or if it's Allen, can't be excited about Pearsall. In the DFS space, people are going to chase Pearsall because of the 8 for 141 and 1. We know that. He's not going to do that again. I don't know what kind of offensive plan has 1 target to Deebo Samuel and 10 to Ricky Pearsall. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know. Maybe we'll ask Armando Marsal about him too, in case you're still playing. But that was a great game for Pearsall. Let's get excited about the future for Pearsall. But remember, Brandon Ayuk is expected to be back from his knee injury early next season. We'll see. Maybe Deebo Samuel's the guy on the way out. I don't know. Jauan Jennings had 10 targets to tie with Pearsall for the team lead. He caught 7 balls for 67 yards. Another strong effort for Jennings, who basically goes 5 for 55 a week, 5 for 60 a week. Whether he's at home or on the road, he's been very consistent in terms of his overall production. There's been a little bit of up and down game to game, but his overall production home and away has been the same. 7 for 67 last night, a stabilizing force to their offense. And obviously, a guy who really stepped up when Brandon Ayuk went down. And even though the Niners season, Jauan Jennings has done a very good job for this team. And then finally, George Kittle, 8 for 110 yards. That's 4 of 6 games with 6 catches. Holding 100 yards in back-to-back efforts. He's putting the finishing touches on what has been another terrific fantasy season. Needs a handful of catches to go 80,000 this year. I think he's got 8 touchdowns too. George Kittle, and they were talking about this last week on the broadcast. At this point in time, George Kittle's building a Hall of Fame case. Because remember, he's a team leader. He's a strong blocker. As an overall tight end, he's excellent. Might be going to the Hall of Fame one day. George Kittle of the Niners. It's pretty damn exciting. Angelo says, look at this. Yeah, Guerendo's PPR points, Jennings' PPR. I misspoke. I said 14 points. It was 13.9. Yeah, almost the same. Pretty exciting because I know people had that back and forth. Do I go Jennings or Guerendo? That did come up in Discord. So there's that. But yeah, it was a good effort last night. Niners lost the football game. At least we had tons of offense in that one. 74 points. So hopefully you took the over on that. Let's see here. I see some questions. People are hopping in here. The room is blowing up. Mike says my neck looks fine. Thanks, Mike. Doesn't look like my head's falling off. Maybe a little bit. Appreciate that. Apparently, Mike won a championship too. Good job, Mike. Appreciate you. Angela said the top team in our league had Hurts and Josh Allen. He'll be scrambling to get someone like Penix to start. I don't know how do you get Hurts and Josh Allen on a team? Good luck with that. Angela says at least Andy Reid told us he's resting top players. Yeah, that'll be in my article and my matchup piece this week over at fantasyguru.com that comes out Thursday morning. I'll have the updated information in there. We'll talk about the playoff matchups. That'll be in there too. We'll have probably some talk on that show about this too. I mean, you can't ignore that. Teams that might be resting some players. Rubby17 says, can't wait for the baseball breakout pitcher of the year article. The top 3 guys last year were Brian Wu, Bryce Miller, and Hunter Brown. So pretty good. And the year before that, it was Justin Steele, who was the breakout pitcher of the year. So had some success doing that. So looking forward to that. Remember the baseball guide, January 6th. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. I'll draft baseball as soon as possible, says Angelo, like I did last season in January or February. More power to you. Henry, morning, Ray. Thanks for the support this year. Had my best regular season across all my leagues this year. Playoffs didn't work out as hoped, but a fun season with your help. Baseball season now. Yeah, and I think, Henry, it's hard at this time. A lot of people are upset if you've been in the playoffs. And I was in the playoffs. I was in the semifinals in 4 leagues. And I went 1-3 in the semifinals. And then I lost in the championship this week. So I went over 4. So I get it. You know, you get to the playoffs and you get disappointed. But, you know, Henry, making it to the playoffs, it's hard. It's a long season with lots of ups and downs. So kudos to you and the hard work this year. I'm glad it paid off, even though ultimately we didn't get the championship. We'll just do it in baseball. How about that? We'll get you that baseball championship this year. Chris D says, this is my first year playing fantasy baseball. Can't wait for the draft guide to play next season. All right, Chris. Yeah, welcome again. Welcome back, I guess. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. We're going to do things a little different for baseball, and I'll get into this, you know, as we get closer to the start of the baseball season. Going to tighten things up a little bit. I think I learned a little bit last year what people were really looking for and hoping for in fantasy baseball. So I think we're going to tweak things a little bit. Nothing substantial, but we'll tweak it a little bit, hopefully get it a little bit better. Angelo's in the middle of hockey. For those people that don't know this, and I know a lot of people do and don't, depending on how long you've followed my work, before I was on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, which I was on the first day of the channel, and for the first decade of the channel, I was on basically 6 days a week. Sometimes I was on 7 days a week. My first appearance on Fantasy Sports Radio, or on SiriusXM, was on the hockey channel. And my first full-time job in fantasy sports was created because I helped spearhead the growth and creation of fantasyhockey.com. So I don't know how many people know that, but I actually was a hockey guy when I first started. I was hockey and baseball, but didn't do football when I started. So yeah, there you go. I am still the only person in SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio history to host a hockey-only show. Did that too. Justin Festerman, who you'll see here on the show on Wednesdays, he was my producer of that show, by the way. Let's see here. Shanahan is like Sean Payton. They get too cute with the offense, according to Sean. It's hard to belittle success. And both guys have had tremendous levels of success, but I think there's some truth to that. I'm not going to disagree with that statement. Sam says Baker or Darnold can't go wrong. Well, you never know. It's amazing where we are 6 months later, right? Because if that had been your duo 6 months ago, oof, we wouldn't have been feeling too good about that. Let's see here. How's the shoulder, says Sean. Thank you for asking, Sean. I really appreciate that. So I got the MRI results for those people that weren't with us yesterday. Been dealing with the shoulder issue for months. I've been doing therapy. I'm doing therapy for about 3 months now on the shoulder. The injury occurred about 5 months ago. Not really sure what happened. I woke up one day and my shoulder hurt. I've had CT scans. I've had x-rays. I had the MRI. Finally got the MRI results yesterday. The bottom line is I've got a tear in my I'm right-handed, but I've got a tear in my left rotator cuff. The doctor asked me if I played racket sports, because I guess the area that's in, it's kind of like I played tennis or something. I'm right-handed. Obviously, I did all kinds of things left-handed. I'm not ambidextrous, but I did a lot of things left-handed. In basketball, I blocked shots left-handed. I used to shoot left-handed, even though I was a right-handed player. Defensively in baseball, I used my glove all over the place. So I use my left arm a lot, but I'm a right-handed guy. Bottom line is I've got a tear in my rotator cuff. There's some degeneration in my shoulder, almost as if I'm left-handed and not right-handed. So I don't know if I was just built that way, if it's through all the sports and everything I did. Bottom line is continue the therapy. No surgeries indicated, so that's good news. Doing some research into PRP. That might be something that I dabble into. I might become like the baseball players doing the PRP thing. We'll see. But basically just more of the same. I don't want to do surgery. Who does? Especially on a shoulder. It's good to hear that it wasn't that. And for what it's worth, my tear is small. So it's not, some people have this tear and they, their arm doesn't work, right? I can use my arm. I just can't lift it up. Some people, I guess, have tears and don't have any pain. So I guess I'm a little unlucky in that respect. But bottom line is I appreciate you asking, Sean, and I'll be okay. I can still do the keyboard. So I just got to take care of myself. All right. Well, that's Sean, stem cell therapy. Yeah, PRP. That's basically what that is. Platelet-rich plasma injection. So that's something we've discussed. So we'll see how that goes. Before we talk to Armando Marsal here in a few minutes, let's do a few news and notes here in football around the league. I'll go through some of these quickly here. Josh Allen is going to play, but not play. He'll start the game to keep his streak alive, but not play deep into the game. It doesn't sound like a lot of the Bills will this week. Chase Brown, who hurt his ankle. Good news with Chase Brown, it didn't look good when he went down trying to not score instead of just trying to score. He hurt himself. Looks like he's probably going to be able to play through the ankle issue. At least that's the early reports we're getting this week. Again, it's Tuesday, so we got a long time to go before the Saturday action there. But the expectation is right now that Chase Brown will be available, which is huge for that Bengals team that has to win that football game. The Dolphins have to win their game too. Mike McDaniel, the coach of the club, said they are optimistic that Jaylen Waddle will return from his knee injury. That's obviously huge for this team. They're facing the Jets. Sauce Gardner's hurt. The Jets suck. They could obviously use Waddle back as they try to make it to the playoffs. So Jaylen Waddle, optimistic. There's optimism that he'll play this week. Chris Olave is going to practice this week. We'll see if he plays. I don't know why he would play. He's dealt with 3, 4, 5 concussions, whatever it is, including that significant one again earlier this season. I don't know why he would come back. We've talked about him on the show previously. Maybe it's just to feel better about the scenario. Maybe that's it. Get out there and feel like you're okay. If I was him, as I've said on the show previously, including I think he's either yesterday or late last week, just go to the offseason. Take 6 months off and rest your head. That's your brain. But anyway, sounds like he's got a chance to play. I don't know how you would play him in DFS even. I don't know how you would do it if he's active, but there's that. Dan Rizzi, the coach of the Saints, also said that they're continuing to evaluate the hand of Derek Carr, and there's a chance that he could play this week against the Bucs. Now, the Bucs are trying to win, make the playoffs. The Saints would love to play spoiler. Derek Carr sure seems like a gamer. I wouldn't put it past Derek Carr playing this week if he's physically able to do so. We'll see. But they're leaving open the possibility that Carr could play. If not, it'll probably be Spencer Rattler again, and that's less than ideal. Yeah. Kendre Miller, concussion protocol. We talked about Miller. He finally got the opportunity to play. He's going to lead the backfield this week. Let's go. Played 7 snaps, got hurt. That was it. As Jeff Mann said, we missed it on Kendre Miller. He talked about it yesterday. Miller's got skills and talents, but just no. So that was a huge disappointment. His season's likely to end on a concussion because he's unlikely to play this week since he's in the protocol. That's my expectation, at least at this point. Brian Callahan said that Tyjae Spears, his status is up in the air because of his head injury, his brain injury. I would be stunned if Tyjae Spears played this week. There's no reason for him to play this week. He already wears the protective hat on the helmet, so obviously he's concerned about head injuries anyway. I'm not expecting Tyjae Spears to play this week. Now, what does that mean to the backfield of the Titans? Well, Tony Pollard could play this week. He's got an ankle injury. He could play this week. It's unclear if he will. Remember, he didn't play last week, but he could return this week. This one is shaping up to be a little bit of a, oh man, what's going on here? Because the club is also saying, according to Brian Callahan, the head coach, that Will Levis and Mason Rudolph will both play. Seems unlikely that Tyjae Spears will play. It's uncertain whether Tony Pollard will play, but we do know we're getting both quarterbacks playing. What are we doing? NFL teams using 2 quarterbacks doesn't work, man. This is not a Division III college team. Like, come on. So we're trying to figure that out. I don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Whatever. We'll figure that out moving forward. Let's see. Dolphins, Tyler Huntley. Seems likely at this point of the week, and it's early. It seems likely at this point of the week that Huntley's going to play and not Tua Tagovailoa. Tua's got the hip issue. They said he flat out just couldn't play last week. And Mike McDaniel says the current plan for the quarterback of the Dolphins this week is for Huntley to have more reps in practice than Tua. Not that would mean Tua couldn't play, of course, but we're leaning toward there being another Huntley game right now, and hopefully that changes. Though Huntley played effectively last week, got to give him props for that, right? He was very effective last week, but obviously the offense is much better with Tua Tagovailoa. And finally, before we talk to Armando Marsal, Stephen Holder is reporting that Anthony Richardson is dealing with some back spasms that were serious last week. He was unable to play last week because of back spasm. And you hear that and you kind of go, oh, come on, man. Back spasms can be bad. Okay, so I'm not – that's like I used to make fun of people for toe injuries until I had a toe injury, and it's like, oh, yeah, that hurts. But the bottom line is he didn't play last week. Joe Flacco, we talked about, went for 330 yards and 2 scores, also had 2 picks, had a fumble. It's uncertain who's going to be the quarterback this week for the Colts. There's obviously an opening for Anthony Richardson to return. We'll have to watch the injury reports with him. To me, it's been odd that there's been so much publicity the last week and a half, week in particular. All kinds of stories being written about Anthony Richardson has cemented himself as the quarterback of the Colts' future. Has he? Did I miss? Did I miss? Like, how? Why? Guy still can't complete a pass under 10 yards, and you cemented his place as your quarterback of the future because he can run a cornerback over who he outweighs by 40 pounds. Okay. We'll see how that goes moving forward. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be this week of the Indianapolis Colts. It's a Tuesday, and every Tuesday we talk to our man Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Armando's always here kind of laying down the law, talking some waiver wires. We'll do that with him. We'll also expand our discussion to a little bit broader perspective this week because I know a lot of you aren't playing in Week 18. Maybe we can ask a little bit about basketball because he's doing that for us too over at fantasyguru.com. He is Armando Marsal. Armando, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good, Ray. Excited to be on here, man. The last show of 2024. The next show will be in 2025. So happy to be doing that one here with you.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. We're done. We're out. No, not quite. But yeah, it'll be the last show here. We're never out, right? There's always work to be done. Armando Marsal at fantasyguru.com. I asked you this before we dive into the football. What's the schedule turning into after Week 18 for you? Because you'll still be, I'm sure, covering football, right? But then you'll be much more heavily involved in basketball.
Yeah. So I'm going to still be doing some DFS content, of course, for football. We'll be doing our playoff staff picks like we do each and every year. So we'll be doing obviously NFL content, but yeah, I'm going to be more hands-on in the NBA stuff. I'm actually going to be on the NBA cheat sheet today. Justin Frenchman is doing the write-up, and then him and I will be in Discord from, I think it's 6 to 7. I think tip-off tonight is 7 p.m. Eastern, so we'll be on there from 6 to 7, hanging out, answering questions like, we are every day. So, yeah, but, yeah, I'll definitely be more hands-on with basketball once the NFL season's over.
Speaking of that, the NFL season isn't over.
No.
I'm always stunned every year that so many people, like, their life is fantasy football, which I love because that keeps us employed, right? Keeps us in a job. But their life, and we know these people, they've sent 500 questions to us over the last 4 months. And week 18 hits, and it's over. They don't play week 18. They don't play DFS. They don't play postseason. They're just out after, which is so weird to me because I would think that so many people are so passionate about this that I would expect and assume they'd want to carry it on. Let's talk a little bit about week 18 first. Should people still be playing seasonal in week 18? Should they have 2-week finals that are week 17 and 18? Should you bail out because, oh my gosh, Josh Allen's not going to play a full game this week? How should seasonal people be handling week 18?
I like the idea of doing 2-week finals, right? I think that gives you a little bit more. It reduces, I guess, the variance of the game. Like, for instance, I went in one of the teams in King Classics, Jeff and I did together. Went 12-2. We just lost in the finals. The finals was this week, and we went 12-2 in the season. They great in the playoffs, and then losing the finals. It would have been fun. We did have some variance there, but I lost in my home league championship as well this past week, and that just I went on a bad run. I talked about it on Sunday. I lost James Conner, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery. Those were my running backs, so it was a tough week 17 there for me. But yeah, I think playing week 18 makes it more fun. I like the idea of, also, once you finish your season, play a playoff one. Like, do a playoff fantasy league. We've done that before. There's best ball, drafts going on, and Drafters has some. I know that for sure because I'm going to be doing some of those. There's also DFS. I strongly recommend checking out the DFS and betting stuff. Like, there's still a lot of action to be had here. So even if you're just a seasonal player, maybe you want to continue the action. Maybe you want to continue having fun with with the sport you love, and you're going to see it on TV. So there's different ways and different outlets to be in it, to still be, financially invested.
Yeah. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, fantasyguru.com. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. Say you want to get the rest of the way football stuff. Say you want to get the whatever we're doing with seasonal. You want to get the DFS coverage. You want to get the wagering stuff. We're still doing it. You might as well join us and make some money while we're doing it. You mentioned the postseason, and this is interesting to me because I had a couple people the last day or two ask me, like, what do we do for the postseason? And I played postseason football for 15 years. Like, I played it every year for 15 years. We're going to have another on Sirius on the Elite Sports Show with Jeff. We're going to have 100 people, which I think ends up being like 94 people because of I'm on it, Jeff's on it, Ted, that kind of thing. But we do the postseason tournament. The one we do, and I want to take your thoughts on this because you briefly mentioned it, Armando. It's a postseason setup where each week you create a team. It's kind of a combo of seasonal and DFS. Each week you create a team. The next week you can't use any of those players. So you can only use the player. It's one and done. So you can use Patrick Mahomes once in the playoffs, right? You can use Justin Jefferson once in the playoffs. And you have to decide who's going to win the games, who's going to move on. So there's that strategy involved, not just who's got the best matchup, but will they still be playing and that kind of thing. So we've always done that and really enjoyed it. Is that the format that you prefer? Or is there a different format for fantasy football playoffs for you?
That's my absolute favorite one. I was hoping you said one and done because it's so strategic, right? Like, because you have to basically do your own bracket and kind of figure out who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. That's what you're trying to do. That's your goal here because you want to make sure you have as many, but you also don't want to miss out on a great opportunity either, right? Like, that's the thing. So, like, there are going to be people using some of these players. So there's just a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking, and it's not just setting a lineup and forgetting. No, you really got to plan this out and map this out. And I love it. I have a couple of different strategies I like to use, and sometimes I lean on just the AFC side, for once, for the first couple of rounds, and then I just go full blown NFC after that. But yeah, I think it's such a fun format, and we've done that before. I've done that with Fred, just things like that. I always try to set up. Right now, I haven't got enough yeses from my group, but I'm trying to set it up because I look forward to that kind of fantasy league.
Armando Marsal of FantasyGuru.com joins us every Tuesday here on the show at about 12:30 Eastern time. Finally, before we talk a little bit about Week 18, DFS. Have you covered DFS? You've covered DFS for years now. I think it's very easy to say, look, I've been seasonal. I got knocked out in Week 15. I got knocked out in Week 16. I won in Week 17. Whatever it is, my season's over for seasonal. Let's play Week 18 DFS. Let's play DFS in the postseason. Have you noticed any trends in the past that Week 18 is kind of a letdown week in the sense that people kind of back off a little bit? Meaning, is it a good time for someone to get involved to play in Week 18? Is there any difference between like Week 15 and 18 from what you've seen over the last couple of years in DFS?
You just have to be paying attention. Like, that's what it is in Week 18. You have to be paying attention to every situation. You have to understand the incentives that there are involved going into the final week of the season. You have to see who's playing for something, who's hinted at resting players. All of these situations, you really have to be on top of news. The good thing is that we don't get football until Saturday and Sunday this week, so we have the entire week to kind of get all the beat writer reports, all the practice reports, all the injury reports, and kind of put all the pieces to the puzzle together to create that final lineup that you want to do. So that's it. The one thing, and just understand that there's going to be a little bit more variance in Week 18 because there are some teams that are checked out. There are some teams that don't have anything to play for. Some teams that do have something to play for. Some coaches are playing for their job really in Week 18. You just have to understand all of these situations, and that's why I think being so well informed. But we do all that here for you guys. So I know I dig into that. I know Jeff digs into that. I know everyone that does DFS is digging into that. I know you're digging into that. Your game day article, that kind of information is in there as well. Mm-hmm. So, that would be the only thing. And for the playoffs, no, the playoffs, I find the DFS and the playoffs for football is some of the funnest DFS that there is. There's going to be a lot of ownership for some players, rightfully so. You just got to find that one or two player that's lower owned than they should be, and if they pan out, you're going to be in a good position. So it's always about identifying those players that are lower owned.
If you want to get involved, remember, send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Say, hey, Ted, help me out. Support@fantasyguru.com, and he'll help you out, tailor a package for you for the rest of the season. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com joining us here. Let's talk a little bit about some of the waiver wire moves in case some people are still playing. We'll go through that just a little bit, not just because of the fantasy implications for seasonal, but these guys in DFS too will be names people will be talking about. So there's application for both. I talked about this yesterday on the show. I was like, I'm telling you seriously, stunned at how many people asked me about Bryce Young.
I know.
Bryce Young, who, I guess was a win. He threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Can't throw for 250 yards, doesn't throw for 2 touchdowns. Not a big, I was stunned at how many people in championship week were considering playing Bryce Young. Again, he was okay. I guess he was a win. He hit 2 scores. Can you use him in any format this week? Does what happened last week impact you this week to the point where, let's go Bryce Young? Because that's how some people were seeing it in week 17.
No, I'm not. So in a single quarterback league, though, I'm not going to do it unless you've been streaming the position, right? It depends on your quarterback situation as always, but if you have a solidified starter that you've been, counting on each and every week, I'm going to continue rolling that starter. I view Bryce Young as a QB2, right? So in a super flex league or in a 2 quarterback league as your second quarterback, sure. I view him as, top 24 quarterback this going into this week. That's where I see him. So yeah, QB2, 2 quarterback league, sure. In a single quarterback league,
I was shocked.
Oh,
I was shocked last week. I got 30 questions
for your finals. I mean, you have to have a strong stomach for that. I don't have quite that strong of stomach, if we're being honest. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I QB2 for me this week, though, to add to the question, right?
At least about half those people had Joe Flacco, and I just told them to play Joe Flacco. So
I would have done the same.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about the Denver Broncos situation. Broncos obviously need to win this game this week, so they're all in. Talked a lot about their backfield, and Jalen McLaughlin had 12 touches on 14 snaps. I don't know. The last 3 weeks, they all have the same touch total estimate. Williams disappeared from the offense. Who cares, right? Don't use a running back from this team unless you have your blood pressure medicine handy. What about Marvin Mims? Marvin Mims had a big statistical game. He made a couple of huge plays, including that catch in the end zone at the end of the game. We've heard for 3 months we need to get him more involved in the offense, and it's slowly started to happen. Cortland Sutton did his thing, but Marvin Mims is coming on pretty strong. What do you think about Marvin Mims?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a flex play in a league where you're dealing with situations at the wide receiver position, or you're needy at the wide receiver position, you can even consider him as your wide receiver 3, really, in this instance. So he has 13 targets over his last 2 games. He had 8 catches last week, over 60 receiving yards last 2 games. He just is that big boomer bust guy. We've seen a little bit more consistency in the target share department in the last couple of weeks. Whether that's either stay or not remains to be seen, but maybe they're trying to get him going for the postseason. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they're trying to get this young man going for the postseason, and hopefully they make that kind of run. They need to win this game. Like, this is an important game for them. They need to win this game. Otherwise, their destiny is out of their control at that point if they lose. So yeah, I'm okay with him. I would add him if you're still playing this week. I think in DFS, I think he's going to be a very interesting play. He'll be in my ride for sure. So yeah, I definitely think that if he's out there, go get him. And if you're dealing with injuries or you're dealing with issues at the wide receiver position, he's a potential plug and play here this week.
Marvin Marsal of FantasyGuru.com. I mentioned earlier that Josh Allen's going to keep his games played streak alive. Doesn't sound like he's going to play much. So a lot of people are going to look at the Bills and just be like, which, okay, fine. But they're still going to be playing football. They're still got 4 quarters of football to play. They're still going to have the carries. They're still going to have the passes. Mitch Trubisky's adequate. Ray Davis, to me, if I'm on the Bills coaching staff, I'm gonna, I'm gonna give the ball a couple of times to James Cook and keep him active. But I'm not planning on him getting more than 8 or 9 touches at top end. But we're going to run the football here. I can't have Mitch Trubisky throwing the ball 38 times this week.
No, let's not, please.
Yeah, right. Let's not do that. So Ray Davis, let's get him going. Let's get him primed. Let's get him going so that if in our first playoff game, James Cook blows his ankle out in the first series, Ray Davis is ready to go. What do you think about Ray Davis this week? Does that scenario that I described make sense to you?
I think it does. I don't think there's a reason to really run out Cook all that much. It's one of those positions where he probably goes out there and gets 10 opportunities or so before they shut him down. I think that's the logical way to view it. So we could probably pencil in Davis for 10 to 12 opportunities as a floor, I think, right? So if that is the case, you're looking at potential flex option this week, maybe a DFS play for value. Really depends, on your running back situation if you're still playing seasonal leagues and what you're, what there's been a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of, some players are going to sit out. We know that. So there's some teams that don't have anything to play for that you're not going to see their players on the field. So just those kind of situations, there might be players that you've been using. So for me, yeah, I think he's someone that this is why you kind of hang on to these guys for opportunities like this where they're going to get 10 to 12 opportunities. I think that's what we could see for Davis this week.
I think, Armando, a lot of people too, they think late in the year everyone just rests. And I went through this yesterday. The percentage of games played is the same as in basketball. I'm joking about that. They put a rule in basketball. You have to play a certain amount of games to win awards. Like basketball, if anyone's complaining about guys resting late in the football season, they don't play fantasy basketball because that's way worse. You got guys resting in the first week of the season. I think a lot of people misunderstand football in that, the line between being employed and unemployed is this thin. And the line between being a bench guy never seeing the field and being on the field is this thin. And your career on average is 3 years, 4 years, something like that for these NFL guys. They can't afford to take days off. They can't afford to take games off. It's not, you might bench Josh Allen. That's fine. I'm still playing balls to the wall if I'm on the Bills team, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that. And they think that, everyone's shutting it down. It doesn't matter. Everyone in that football field is playing for the next There's no guaranteed contracts in football. They're playing for their jobs. These coaches are trying to scheme things out so next year they can move up from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator or something like that. Do we make too much of the resting piece because it's just Josh Allen isn't going to play or Patrick Mahomes? Do we make too much of that without realizing that there's still going to be guys throwing the ball 35 times this week? There's still going to be guys carrying the ball 20 times this week. These guys are playing for their careers, basically.
Yeah, I think it's something that as fantasy managers and as people really we overthink, right? Because I don't think that is as bad as people, make it seem, right? You mentioned it. In basketball, that's terrible. Basketball is terrible. I mean, and basketball too, it's like last minute. Jimmy Butler went out the other day, played 5-6 minutes, I think it was, didn't take a shot, said he wasn't feeling good, sat out. He hasn't played since. So, so just keep that in mind. When it comes to it. So no, I agree. I think it's something we overthink here. And look, the San Francisco 49ers last night, they had nothing to play for, right?
Nope.
They came out and they played well. I mean, yeah, that Brock Purdy did not have his best game, right? He was not reading defenses. It was really pretty bad. But I'm saying when you watch their energy, their attitude, their effort, there was no lack of any of that on the field for a lot of these guys. I mean, George Kittle was playing like he's playing for a Super Bowl, right? I mean, you see it. And that's because they believe in Shanahan. They're playing for their coach at this time. And you just got to, see that there's going to be a lot of those situations, a lot of those locker rooms where they're going to go out there and they're going to play for their coach. We kind of saw that with the Browns when Jameis Winston was under center, where they were really playing and showing that energy, even though they had nothing to play for. So, yeah, I wouldn't overthink it too much. There are some situations like Josh Allen. You don't really want to, okay, maybe he'll play a quarter or two. Okay, but he's going to play, like you said. And in a quarter or two, I'll be honest, I'll take a quarter or two of Josh Allen over a lot of quarterbacks right now.
Or DTR full game.
100%. Yes, not even close.
Yeah, that's talking about the Browns. They might have played well for Winston, but the Browns obviously are going for a draft pick because DTR is objectively awful.
Well, that's why they're doing that now.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Armando Marsal at fantasyguru.com. What about the backfield with the Cardinals? Because James Conner gave it a go last week. It didn't work out. That was a crusher for people. I think you mentioned you had Conner on your team.
Yeah.
Earlier. Yeah. Benson, this should be the Benson happy time, but is he going to play? Is it Michael Carter? Talk us through what your thoughts are with Carter and Benson, because again, this team has been successful running the ball this year.
Yeah, I think it really depends on Benson's status, right? I think that's how we kind of have to view this. And is this a team where we just talked about, some teams checking it in, and then this is a situation where what are they really going to get out of playing Benson this final game? It really depends on, the severity of the injury that he's dealing with. And I think he could give it a go, but do they want to risk anything with him, at this point in the season with nothing to play for? They really don't have to see what they have in him. I think they're going to be able to see that all off season. There's a situation where they think they go Carter, but I would monitor injury reports and practice reports very closely. And if there's any indication that they are going to give Benson a look, then yeah, you just kind of flip it around. This is a situation where you want to have both of these running backs on your roster right now and take the wait and see approach really before making any decisions. But right now, I do think it'll be Carter going into the final week as the main guy there for Arizona.
I mentioned this yesterday, and I answered a bunch of questions. I didn't notice if you did. You probably did too, Armando. People were worried about the Lions benching players last night, and I was like, just not paying attention. There's no way they're benching their guy. They didn't. They won the football game. I talked about it earlier in the show. The Commanders, they don't have to play their guys this week. They should, and I think they basically have said we're going to because they can improve their playoff seeding. Olamide Zaccheus, who all of a sudden is the last 2 weeks been the number one receiver for this team statistically. Is that a trend that you anticipate continuing? And is this a week where Terry McLaurin gets 18 targets because they can't go into the playoffs after last? He got one ball for 5 yards last week. They have to reestablish him, don't they? Heading into the playoffs. Talk us through Zaccheus and McLaurin.
Yeah, this is a situation where I think they're going to play their guys, right? You have a young quarterback under center. Making your postseason, I think you got to give them as many reps as you can. Get them ready for this kind of football. This is now December, January football that you're playing. It's a very different kind of football. So I think the more reps he gets, the better. I don't even think it's about the seeding for them. They'll say that's why, but I think it's just they want to get their guy the reps here. I think this is a game for them to kind of let Daniels throw the ball, right? I think they want to let him get loose. I think that's going to help McLaurin. I think that's going to help our guy Zach there. Okay, I don't want to butcher his last name.
Just say OZ. Just say OZ.
OZ. All right, OZ. Our guy OZ there. So yeah, I think look, McLaurin, I'm starting every week. At the end of the day, we're starting him every week. I know we got a lot of questions of listen. If you're thinking about benching McLaurin, it's because you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ja'Marr Chase, and Justin Jefferson on the same team. That's the only kind of time we're thinking about sitting up. So we're gonna roll him out. And then OZ becomes, I think, a fun flex play. It's just, I think there is risk, right? I think you have to understand with these kind of guys that emerge like this late in the season, it can continue. But I do think that there is always going to be some risk. So it really depends on your options. And it really depends on how much volatility and how much risk you want to take here. But I like what I've seen. I think this is a good trend. And I like to look at these, late, runs and late stretches. and kind of see how that ties into potential next year. Like that's kind of some of my process in the offseason. And look at the, some late some late flyers, some late guys that did really well late in the season. So, I like this trend so far for him.
Armando, final question before we deal with some of the comments in the chat room. The Patriots may or may not play their guys. They have no reason to play their guys. They're trying to get the number 1 pick. Their head coach said that they were going to start Gibson, then they started Stevenson, then they didn't give the ball to Stevenson. I'm confused what Jared Mayo's doing. I look at this and think they're going to try to lose this game. Not really, but yes, they're going to try to lose this game for the draft pick. And in theory, Ramondre Stevenson is the lead running back. Is it an Antonio Gibson week? Is Antonio Gibson going to get 20 touches this week? Because there's no reason to hurt Ramondre Stevenson. There's no reason to really give him the football. We don't even know how long the starting skill players are going to be out there. Gibson's just a guy. Is it one of those weeks where he pops off Jerome Harrison style from a couple years ago?
Oh, I don't want to think so. I don't want to think so. I don't trust this situation. I've been observing this for several weeks now, and it's been very inconsistent. Like the usage here, the way that this backfield has been, splitting the workload has been very inconsistent. I don't trust it whatsoever. If you're playing for the league, if you're playing for the championship, if you're playing for it all, I don't know if he's the kind of risk I want to take in someone like Antonio Gibson. Really has to be where you're in a bad situation, really, at the running back position to consider him here. For me, at least, I just don't want to take that kind of risk.
Marvin Mims of FantasyGuru.com. Mike O says, can you guys touch on how to manage fab as it pertains to having money left in case one makes a playoff run? He's asking for a friend, of course, because Mike didn't make this mistake. But I think a lot of people run into this. You have to understand how your league allows you to pick up players. Can you pick up players for free after the waiver wire process runs? Some leagues allow you to do that. Some don't. Can you pick up players for $0, or do you have to have dollars left? Do you have $1,000 fab or $100 fab? That changes how you bid throughout the year. I say it, you say it. We all talk about it. You have to leave money left to make moves late. You just have to. You can't be blowing out 92% of your budget and it's week 7. And we see this happen all the time to people, right? It's like, okay, your team is a juggernaut in week 7, but what happens when 4 of your guys get hurt before the season is over? So what are some tips for Mike to help next year for his friend to do a better job of managing fab?
I think it's not buying into the 1 week hypes. And I think that happens a lot, right? And then being overly active on the waivers, where every week you're just adding the hottest waiver wire or someone that emerged or someone that had a good game. Like, I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, where you're just constantly bidding. I agree with you. In a situation where you can get free pickups after the waiver wires run, sometimes save the money and see if those, second tier, third tier guys that you were considering are still around. If they are, great. You get it for free. No $0 spent. If they aren't, it was a second or third tier guy. It's not a priority off waivers. You never want to do the priorities. I've seen a lot of people ask me about, should I bid on a defense? I never bid on defense, especially when there's a free pickup. And if I bid on a defense, it's not going to be more than $1 or the min, whatever your min, bid amount is on your league. So I think that's something huge as well. Like kickers, same thing. Don't add and drop and spend money every week on defenses and kickers. Just hang on to one. Look at a schedule. You got a defense. Look at the schedule. Look at the next couple of weeks. I can play this defense the next couple of weeks. I think those are some other things to consider here. For me, I'm very, I don't want to say frugal with my fab, but I try to be like aggressive when I need to. Like when Winston was named a starter, I was in the super flex league, and that I was beyond aggressive with him because I know the kind of production I can get from him as my QB too. Didn't even need him, but I knew the kind of production I was going to leave out there, and I was able to use him a couple of weeks as well. It obviously didn't work out for the season, but being aggressive and being selective with how you're aggressive, making sure you do it with to pick up a backup quarterback for 1 week. Don't overspend. Like those are little things. I plan on doing a podcast, an in-depth podcast about this, about using fab and using your waiver wires and stuff like that. I'll talk a lot about that, but there's just so much to talk about with this subject, right? But just being selective, I think, is another way to kind of save money there.
I guess Mike is new to the show. He says he's thoroughly enjoying this. How long are these typically? These shows are Monday through Friday. They start at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There's no set number. I say generally we're 55 minutes to an hour and 5 minutes. So let's call it an hour a day, Mike. So join us every day, Monday through Friday. We're basically here for an hour. And Mike as well, to help you with Fab, the show every week we had Armando on talking waivers. So we did it every week throughout the season. So that would have been another benefit to you. Help identifying, as Armando said, the right players to bid on. And that's something this year that until the last couple of weeks, like we really didn't have that much turnover at the running back position. And that, generally speaking, is where the majority of people spend those huge dollar amounts, Armando. The running back position was remarkably stable this year. I wouldn't anticipate that being the case, though, in 2025.
No. And then you also have to remember, like, being one step ahead, like being 1 week early to the party, like that's a big thing of this too. But yeah, no, it wasn't like there weren't many weeks. There were a couple of weeks where you can go out there and bid heavy on a player, but there weren't many weeks this year where you should have gone and spent, over 20% or 25% of your budget on any single player. For the most, especially early in the season. I think that especially early in the season, we didn't have that many of those kind of players.
Jeff Mans also talks about this every week on his Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. We have our Fab articles over at fantasyguru.com. Remember, you can always subscribe. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get access to all of the coverage there. You can ask questions in Discord. Armando and I are in there. We will have Discord rules next year. We're doing it, Armando. We're working on it behind the scenes.
I know.
Yeah, but
we are.
You can ask questions about waiver wires. People are in there asking questions, Monday morning at 6 a.m. They're in there. We're answering those questions throughout the season. Angelo says that he's, needs to cover Chase Brown. Now, it seems like Chase Brown is going to play through his ankle injury. That's where we're leaning at this point in time. But we have to, if we're looking ahead here in week 18, Ray Davis there is on the waiver wire. It's pretty decent pickup at this point of the season, right? Just to reiterate what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I think so. I think if he's out there, you add him, just drop a wide receiver depth that you're not going to use or whatever, really. But definitely add him just in case.
All right. He's Armando Marsal. I'm Ray Flowers. Everyone's having conversations. No one's asking us anything. They're asking each other, which I like. They're all talking back and forth. And again, for those people that don't know, every day, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern time, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and on YouTube at YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can watch the shows live and leave comments that we can address live throughout the show. So that's another way to answer questions next year, Mike. We're still doing this, which I anticipate we will be. You can ask a question on a Tuesday. Say, hey, do I have this guy on the waiver wire? And Armando will be able to help you out. All right, Armando. So we've got DFS continuing at fantasyguru.com. We've got seasonal continuing. The rankings are up for week 18 over at fantasyguru.com. I'm working on my matchup article that'll be out Thursday morning. You're working on your DFS articles. Is it Friday?
Yeah, it'll be Friday. Yeah.
Friday comes out.
I'll be on with Tyler this Friday as well for his live stream. I'll be on with him Friday evening.
Friday, was it 7 o'clock Eastern?
Yes, 7 o'clock Eastern. Yes,
and you're on tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on the
no show tonight. No show.
Oh, okay.
No roster coach tonight.
That makes sense though, because I guess it is New Year's Eve. You could be going.
I'll be answering NBA questions though.
There you go. That's right. You mentioned
that earlier. Discord answering NBA questions.
And your schedule, just to reiterate it, moving forward for basketball, you'll do you have certain days now that you'll be moving forward? You'll be on Tuesdays or Thursdays, or is that plan set up yet?
No, the days aren't specific yet. I have to sit with Fenty and a couple of the NBA guys that kind of work that around. But there'll probably be some type of, early in the week, probably Tuesday, Wednesdays, some of those days, or maybe Tuesdays, Thursdays. I'll talk with the guys. But yeah, I'll have it I'll have it up soon for you guys to let you know.
And remember, you can go to fantasyguru.com, and this show is free, as well as Armando's show, Mind of Marsal. Let's go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, scroll down. You can find Jeff Mann's free podcast. You can find Justin Fensterman's podcast. You can find this show recorded, and you can find Mind of Marsal as well with Armando Marsal, our guest every Tuesday here on the show. Armando, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it. Good luck in all the forms of football you're playing this week. We'll have you back on, obviously, next week, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about playoff fantasy football. We'll figure something out good to talk about. But thanks for your time today, and Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2025.
Yes, Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for having me, Ray. I'll talk next Tuesday. Next Tuesday and next year. Like you said, boy, I didn't even really think of it. It's the last show of the year. You're right. Yeah. We'll see you in 2025, folks. Thanks for coming on today, Armando. Yeah, thank you. All right. Good luck to everyone who's playing this week.
He's Armando Marsal. I'm Ray Flowers. Thanks for watching the show. Again, remember, I'll be on from 3 to 6 Eastern today with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So a double dose of Ray for those of you interested today. Monday through Friday, this show, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, is on. Fensterman Justin hosts on Wednesday. I'm here with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. For Armando, I am Ray Flowers. Thanks for listening, and have a safe but fun New Year's Eve tonight celebration. We'll see you again later this week at Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com.